Morning, guys. It's 7:08 in the morning. It's Saturday. It's the 16th of January, 2021. Hell of a day to wake up, I'll tell you. It's the day before another holiday, actually coming up, or maybe a couple more days. Martin Luther King holidays coming up. January 17th, 1994 is where I remember the Martin Luther King being remembered most unfondly and unsatisfactory and very discouraging. Not because of the man or the holiday it's supposed to represent. No. A date of that type will be living in my head for all of infinity and all eternity. It is not because of human intervention of any sort. No. Mother Nature decided to give everybody a holiday during that time, a major refitting. By waking us up at 4:30 in the morning with a major earthquake. At first, the scientists thought it was well beyond 7, but then they argued with it. Said, no, it's about 6.2 or 6.3. I hate to say it, guys, but it was a 7. Come on. There was also stories floating around during that time that if the Richter, modified Richter at that point, magnitude was actually well above 7. 7 and above, actually. The United States government would go broke paying for the damage inflicted upon California and Nevada. And not to mention turning the insurance companies into paupers. That's where the story was floating around all these years, even on that day. So they had to drop it down to what it was, in the 6 range. But with all that widespread damage happening across the South, the earthquake was even felt in San Diego. They had some, not much damage. Marietta had some damage, but not much. San Francisco, they felt a little shaking, but nothing else happened. Bakersfield, they had some damage. Antelope Valley and Apple Valley, they had damage. I mean, it was centered in Northridge, and it was just spread right out. So everyone kept wondering during that time whether or not the energy was going to be affecting the San Andreas Fault. And nobody knew that a little twerp of a fault line, not even deep, but a shallow, decided to do a major go bird. Earth trying to do a little major belching and then ripping up something. Our lives had changed irrevocably. Well, then our lives are supposed to be changed irrevocably. Things happen in life, you change with it. You go with it. You go with the flow. Maybe you're going downhill, down a waterfall. You're dead. That's life for you. In this situation, the ground in the California region, Southern California region, extending all the way to Arizona and Nevada. Because of the geologic nature of our areas, we lived in plains. We lived in what they called alluvial plains during that time, where sedimentary rock was more than common. Even among the rocky areas, the peaks would have the material for years and years and years fall down and compact and solidify. And the water tables would be filled up in those areas. Well, then when you get enough shaking in an area, It disturbed the water tables and caused liquefaction in other areas. In fact, it caused liquefaction in the San Fernando Valley. And there was a lot happening there. There was even reports of damage happening, as I said before, in the Antelope Valley and Palmdale, Lancaster area. They didn't know what the hell was going on there. All they know is their malls, shops, and their houses were being shaken to the point of saying goodbye. So this morning is the day before the anniversary. I called it the son of a bitch. I was living in Reseda at the time with my family. We had just moved here in '93. We were just trying to get ourselves settled. We had a landlord we were still feeling out, and he seemed to be okay, rich gold miner. God rest his soul. And he was trying to get rid of a palm tree that could have smashed into the house if there was problems with it. And it was showing it to be a bit diseased inside. So he hired a gardener, a tree removal guy. Low-life bastard. The landlord was trying to save money. He was a contractor. He knew his buildings and he knew people to contact. And unfortunately, this particular guy made a mistake on him. Rich didn't want the area to be damaged. He had a lot of wood planks. So hopefully there wouldn't be any damage to the area. I never figured out about contracting or construction, but he knew more about it than I did, so I'm more worried about keeping a damn job. Go back a year, I'm working over at a temp agency, Apple One in Northridge, and they have a temp assignment over to what they call the Great Western Bank building, an administrative hub in the area. Dealt with the real estate markets, both commercial and single residence. They had to have manual labor for the files that they had. These days, you know, everything's computerized, but back then, back in the 90s, they're just getting the information on files. They're just getting information on computer files. So now we got paper files up the yin-yang to sort through, and to keep track of everything and everywhere. Of course, the temps they hired at the time was being another schlub who came off of another temp job. A guy named Tim. Tim was a go-getter at this point over here. Because I wanted to start on a Monday and he wanted to start on a Friday. As soon as that damn job ended, he became supervisor. I didn't want the supervising job. I just wanted a damn job. I thought it was going to be a regular company guy doing supervising. But no, we had to report to a vice president. Don't ask me who this guy was. Anyway, I did meet a good, wonderful people over there. And during this time, my mother and I were talking about going back to school, at least to a trade school, learn a new trade. So, learn a new trade. And it was during this time I was going in an office, school setting, still going over to the business school at Van Nuys, on Van Nuys Boulevard, close to Roscoe. It's one of the high-rises that they had. And I was having fun. Learning a bunch of stuff too. But I really wasn't up to speed concerning about how to run an office or office equipment, just trying to get there. I lost a job over at Great Western after 9 months because of workers' comp stuff. Boxes fell on top of me. Injured the back and neck. Starts the whole damn thing down the road. I lost the job because of it. I also wanted to get the hell out of there because I was having a lot of hostility and the job was burning me out. But there was no other place for me to move over to in the company. Or any other kind of temp job. Either I accept the damn thing or whatever. So the injury got me out of the job. I work at a different company called Weyerhaeuser. And another high-rise out in Warner Center called Trillium Complex that they had. 2 big towers, a hotel. They had in the area, sports club, swimming pool on top of a parking structure. And a bunch of other fancy shops they had in the area. Compact. The Trillium building were 2 glass buildings, 30 stories tall. Sat on rollers. Meaning that if the ground was shaky, the building would be doing this. Which meant everything else would be going like this inside. It wouldn't break it as much, it wouldn't bend it as much, but they still had some engineering feats for the damn thing. It took them weeks, about a month, just to get the damn thing fixed right after the '94 Quake. So the thing is, I'm getting on my day off there, 4:30 in the morning, Martin Luther King. I've already been working here about 2 or 3 weeks already in the company as another schlub. I'm actually hired as a schlub. All hell breaks loose. Shaking all over the place. Things falling down all over the place. Getting trapped in my bedroom because of a damn bookshelf that fell right in front of the damn door. Dave and I, my brother and I had to help move this damn thing out, and we're worried about the damn dogs running around all over the place. Have to get those guys secured. My brother is running around without his shoes. And because the ground's still vibrating like crazy, he's still riding in the glass that's already been shattered by many pieces of glass and cup collections. He's going across them like he's Spider-Man or something. I don't know. He's just flying through the damn thing. My mother is freaking out. She's on her bed. The only safe place for her to be is on the bed. So it stops her major motion, and we get out of the living room and stay there for a bit. We're shaking up like crazy. Here comes the aftershocks. Seemed like all hell broke loose on that day. My brother knew how to survive. He'd been through military training on how to survive stuff. Also knew how to camp. Ma really was not a camper. I've barely been able to remember what it was like to camp during that time. So, and I also remembered that I couldn't deal with a damn earthquake in the first place. I studied them in college a long time ago, but I could not appreciate what was going on. There was nothing to appreciate. Everything was being destroyed around us. I mean, we had houses being crumbled. Foundations are cracked like crazy, even our foundation. We had a slab roof, slab house. It was theoretically purported to be a bunkhouse for a ranch that existed in Reseda, by Tampa. And the actual ranch house was on the corner of Valerio and Tampa. A landmark, a historical landmark for the valley. And our particular bunkhouse was being shaken like crazy. We had cracked foundation. Thank God the roof was all right. The house is shaking like this. We had leach lines gone. Septic tank needed to be repaired. Replaced, actually. That needed to be dug up. It took about a day to get that done. But only after the damage was all assessed. We should have been red tagged. We weren't. Somehow we made sure we didn't get into that situation. A few other places along us got red tagged. Helping out our neighbors left and right to have a place to sit. At least find out what's going on. And right after the first initial shake, and then you had the P and the S waves kicking in. There's aftershock. Here comes the schmuck regarding the tree situation. He wants to get all of his lumber. Ma's the only one over there screaming, yelling at him. You can't get in here. I want my stuff right now. I need my stuff right now. I'm going to get over there. And by this time, Dave and I have already rolled up. We've already rolled up to see what the hell's going on and see if we can get some food and other things at the nearby store. And we did. David sees him, and already he's in combat mode because right now he's on survival. He sees that guy as a threat and how to use physical force to get rid of him. My brother also had a permit for a weapon. You know, argue with a man with a gun. This is back in '94. My brother was still out of the Navy, but he still retained a license to use weapons. And he was not going to play with anybody. We had Rich Kobliner, the landlord, finally came over after assessing him. He came over to us to assess our place. And it was barely light. Guy's still arguing with Dave and Ma. Dave, in survival mode, already fired one shot between the guy's legs. The next one's going in the head. Get out of here. Guy's still being a belligerent asshole about it. Rich had to grab the guy and said, "You're out of here. I don't want you on my property ever again." "I want my stuff. I want my lumber. I want. It took Rich, my brother, on the street not to kick this guy's shit, and here comes the cops. The cops told the guy to get the hell out. My brother and Rich showed ID, paperwork, permits, and stuff. I got it during that time. In between aftershocks. So the cop told the tree guy to get out, and he did. We never saw him again. After Rich made sure that we were fine, he still had to check on a few other properties. I mean, he had did his own investigation of his own property to see if it was still structurally sound, and it was. The guy was brilliant enough to structurally sound his place, but the place he bought from us wasn't. But we managed to live in it for a decade, and then came home. I said I talked about this particular story here because the whole place was, the whole date was etched and burned in my head regarding earthquakes. This wasn't my first rodeo regarding earthquake situation. I was about 5 years old. We had the 71 earthquake up in Sylmore. My family was living in North Hollywood at the time in an apartment complex on Ethel and Van Owen. And we were in the top level of it. The bottom levels were in danger of being flooded out by the apartment's pool in the middle of the complex. One particular apartment got flooded out. It was very dangerous. and we weren't in an apartment level that got flooded out. And the one that got flooded out was the apartment manager. Apartment manager got flooded out. We were in the top level. And afterwards, after the earthquake, I guess we moved down to the second level before we moved into a house a year or two later. It was a nightmare for everybody. We didn't suffer any structural damage, thank God. But it was a big enough earthquake to do so anyway in the valley. And every year that comes up regarding the '94 earthquake, it just sticks in my head. I have taken geology classes back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s over at Pierce College, Woodland Hills, California. And the information was stuck in my head. But they never prepared you for the damn experiences. Until there was, like maybe years later, when they actually had something called a Shake Shack. Now, if they still have that going, I recommend it, okay? It's where you sit into it, and you get yourself an experience of what an earthquake feels like. The heart races, the pulse goes crazy. Your respiration's going out of control at this point over here. You got the firefly going on. You got a bad taste in your mouth. And this is while you're in the Shake Shack and they're trying to simulate a 4 to a 5, almost up to a 7. And this was a nightmare that I've been through a few times already. I've been through several earthquakes in my life. They're never fun. The last time I've been into one was on July 4th, about a couple of years back. 2019 Ridgecrest. They had over a 6.4, I think. Extended magnitude. And it was big enough to level a town, but it wasn't deep enough. It wasn't shallow enough to do the damage. But it did do damage all over the place. We felt it out here in Roseman, California. This is about 30 miles away. We still felt it. It was good enough shaker, good enough energy. It still brought back memories of every time I've had earthquakes. Woody and Arrows happened out in 87, or 88 actually. That was, seeing Loma Prieta going crazy, and not to mention San Francisco being destroyed. And it's 6 months later, my brother and I are touring the area, going to a convention of sorts, just for the weekend. And we saw the damage, and we saw the collapse of the freeways, still being under repair, including the Bay Bridge. They had that one particular freeway, a double-decker, that got pancaked. We saw that one too. Still pancaked. Still trying to dig out the bodies. Candlestick Park looked like it was still holding together. So yeah, me and California earthquakes are very familiar with each other. They're sneaky bastards. I kept telling people and making a joke about this that I'll trade their disaster for my disaster because you never know where mine's coming. Except when it comes down for tornadoes. We're in a flat enough area out here in the Antelope Valley that we can get tornadoes. They get close enough to the mountains, the winds are not as strong, so we get the wind strength blowing down, but we're not getting blasted left and right. However, if we happen to get any further away and more into the flattened areas, then we have a possibility of a rare tornado, which we did have. The winds were blowing just right that we had problems. We have dust devils, what we call them. They're like mini tornadoes. They can be just as damaging, lesser than an F1, but they're pretty damn interesting to see and be in, I'll tell you. Anyway, I just wanted to say something about this particular date. This day coming up for January 17th. Martin Luther King birthday is important for everybody, I guess. But it's not the man I remember, and it's not the holiday or anything else regarding anything that he stood for, including civil rights. It had to be a geologic event that I have to keep remembering all the time, because that's more of a nightmare that's never gotten rid of. And who knows, when we have another anniversary on the same day. I hope not. One major quaking was enough as it is. After that, I will seriously contemplate getting the hell out of here, out of California. Maybe move to Colorado or Washington. The problem is they would also have earthquakes up in the West Coast. Knowing my geology and the eggshell theory, the plate tectonics of the planet, there isn't one area that's going to be safe enough for plate tectonics. Nowhere on the Earth. Nowhere. I had to live with that one. Florida, I got to deal with the bugs. I got to deal with the heat and humidity and anything else in the south, including along the East Coast. And I don't think I could deal with that. I could go in the plains if I wanted to, and that would be entitling to Tornado Alley. If the weather's dry enough, Colorado gets to be torched again. I can go out to Las Vegas, but that's too damn close to the earthquake fault lines. So no matter where I go in the United States, natural disaster awaits for me. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're screwed either way. Well, we'll see. It's just a horrible thought. I'm not going to have a good day if I'm starting to think about that kind of stuff.